各位朋友，大家下午好。欢迎各位参加由 Managers 蒙科和欧洲导师与教练协会 EMCC 联合主办的100场导师技术在线论坛。那今天是第47场，由来自德国的安切女士主讲。她今天跟我们分享的话题是教练型管理者必备的技能。首先，让我们来简单认识一下今天的演讲嘉宾安切女士。安切他有20多年的企业高管经历，然后是组织传播和营销领域的领导者，同时他也是一位职业理疗师。那他在这几个领域的相关经历，然后对于他做督导和教练，带来了很大的帮助。他是 EMCC 认证的督导，同时也是 ICF 的大师级教练 MCC， 也是 ICF 德国分会的现任会长。那他创立了PROPELLO Coaching 这家公司，那这家公司主要专注于提供高管教练和领导力发展服务。那今天的讲座主办方是欧洲导师教练与协会 EMCC 和 Managers 蒙科。那 EMCC 是总部设在比利时布鲁塞尔的，专门为导师、教练、督导提供国际资格认证的非营利性组织。Managers 蒙科源自1981年，是企业导师技术和组织隐性知识管理领域的全球知名教育咨询品牌。蒙科的总部在比利时布鲁塞尔，然后在全球有近600名专业顾问，在41个国家和地区为各类组织机构提供隐性知识萃取和企业导师传承相结合的培训以及咨询服务。蒙科中国则是专注在国内本土市场开展企业导师制以及组织隐性知识管理的培训和咨询，同时也是 EMCC 认证的导师课程提供方，也是 EMCC 受证的中国唯一导师服务机构，也是国际职业导师协会在中国的独家授权合作伙伴。那好，现在呢，我们就把今天的舞台交给我们的演讲嘉宾。Now let's warmly welcome Ms. Antje.
Welcome, fellow coaches and all listeners to this webinar. This is one of the EMCC 100 webinars in China. My name is Antje and I'm your presenter today. The topic we're going to cover is coaching skills for managers. You may ask yourself, why is that important? Why do managers need coaching skills? Shouldn't they just lead and get things going? Well, what we realized in recent years, during and after the pandemic, is that people work differently. They work virtually, they work in hybrid models, they work sometimes in the company, sometimes not. People get together sometimes and sometimes not. And that requires a different approach to coaching, to leadership styles. And coaching style is one of the future leadership styles discovered. Before we dive into the content, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Antje, and I'm located either in Hamburg, Germany, or Mallorca, Spain, which I both call home. I coach for many, many years now. I am a member both of EMCC and ICF, and I turned in my Master Practitioner application, ESIA, and team coaching, and I'm already certified MCC with ICF. Also, I hold a degree in organizational communications from Queen's University of Charlotte in North Carolina. I am married and a mother of 2 grown-up boys who still keep me busy in times of less work. In 2013, I founded PROPELLO Coaching and work as coach, trainer, mediator, mentor, and supervisor. Today, we focus on these 4 topics: why managers need more than knowledge to lead effectively, essential coaching skills for leaders. We put a focus on psychological safety as one of the coaching skills for leaders. And I give you 3 hacks for getting started. If you listen to this webinar as a coach, you might be familiar with some of these approaches, and it might be useful to discuss your experiences and perspectives in the Q&A part of the webinar. If you participate as an HR person or leader in any other role, you may compare the content with your experiences from your own company and working culture. I'm already looking forward to our discussion later. Why managers need more than knowledge to lead effectively? What do you think? We followed this question and came across a study that was made by a German company in 2021. And they tried to figure out the future of leadership. So what is required? And in order to get information about that, they asked applicants and HR people. What they found out was very interesting, actually. So before we take a look at this image, I give you a general overview what we have here right now, what bothers us in the work life. And you might have heard that we face in general a skills shortage in Western Europe. We have demographic problems as the boomer generation leaves the job market for retirement, and we have a shift in values with Gen Z people. The boomer generation stands for a performance society, whereas Gen Z attach much more importance on work-life balance and personal well-being. Hence, mental health plays a bigger role and is much more taken care of in younger people, which means they are more interested in keeping the work-life balance instead of achieving things like boomer generation people did. So therefore, you can see in the upper left part of the image the top 3 challenges of an applicant's point of view. That is virtual leadership, organization of cooperation, and mental health of employees. In the upper right is shown applicants endorse much more emotional intelligence related behavior and people orientation in their managers than task knowledge and orientation. In the lower part, the lower third of this image, HR people as well as applicants see a need to catch up for executives in 3 important areas. Again, mental health of employees, organization of cooperation, and virtual leadership. Areas that became increasingly important during and after the pandemic and through generational shift, as I said before. The same study came up with characteristics of future leadership styles. They discovered, and that is kind of obvious, changed power relations because people don't work that closely together and there are generational shifts. There's startup culture, which means that they don't rely on traditional hierarchy patterns. So they discovered flatter hierarchies. Relationship and leadership in focus, increased competency requirements for management, performance management, increasing technicalization. Of course, that's kind of obvious, right? Increasing pressure and focus on further training of employees, like empowerment. We're talking about empowering people to elicit more commitment. They also found that after many months of mobile working during the pandemic, very different opinions and ideas are emerging as to which forms of work and thus also management models will be most suitable in the future. What is certain, however, is that ongoing digitization and increasing work density are also contributing the need to rethink leadership. Individual employees already have an extremely high level of detailed knowledge. Managers can no longer and do not have to have detailed knowledge in order to lead well, but increasingly have qualities that promote motivation in employees when working under high pressure. In this webinar, we will cast light on how coaching skills as a management tool help to create a psychologically safe working environment in which this is possible. That brings me to the next agenda topic. Which coaching skills will help manage the most to meet the expectations of their employees and HR representatives? Let's have a look. Here you can see 9 most essential coaching skills for leaders. That is not all of them, that is just a part, and that are probably the most important. So it is about inclusive leadership. It is about emotional intelligence, about empathy, effective communication, active listening, goal orientation, psychological safety and trust, dealing with feedback, and a growth mentality. You might have noticed that they are not standing alone, so they are kind of intertwined. If you're a good, effective communicator, you'll probably also be an active listener. Or if you are strong in emotional intelligence, you have probably a lot of empathy for your team members, right? So they are connected. All these skills are connected, and they can't be seen separately. Anyway, we do that with one of them, because to cover all of them would be too much for this little webinar. So therefore, I picked the psychological safety as the one to cast a little bit more light on it, because I find that psychological safety is one of the most important drivers for creativity and higher motivation and more commitment, hence more team efficiency. So what exactly is psychological safety? Any ideas? Let's take a look at the definition of Amy Edmondson, who created this term and who did a lot of research on psychological safety. She says, psychological safety is the confidence that one will not be punished or humiliated for raising ideas, questions, concerns, or making mistakes. So let's pause a little here and take a minute to reflect. Where do you experience psychological safety and where don't you? How does it feel? What exactly is the difference? I just mentioned Amy Edmondson did a lot of research on this topic. So one of her findings has been, it has a lot to do with communication. And she found out about how bad communication habits can undercut the development and existence of psychological safety. She focused on communication skills and communication habits. And she found out that 4 specific communication habits are the strongest toxins in communication. So one of them is the complaint or the criticism. And you might have experienced that yourself. So if you feel criticized, you kind of don't feel comfortable in that situation. It doesn't feel good to be criticized because you have good intentions and then somebody comes along and says, well, I don't agree. I don't like what you just said. And that really feels weird, right? So this creates a misrelationship, kind of a misbehavior, because you interpret and you don't want to be there. So you might refrain, or you approach the situation differently than in a psychological safe environment where you can say, well, all my thoughts were like, I did that because, or I had the intention to, and then you can discuss the content. Depends on the strength of the other person, of the level of conflict that is behind that. Another point that she pointed out was defense. Defense is similarly dangerous to communication and to psychological safety, because if somebody defends him or herself themselves, they kind of correspond in the same manner. So both habits, like complaint and criticism and defense, keep only an eye of their own perspective. They don't change perspectives, which is important, or which is required to understand each other much better in a psychological safe environment. If you don't do that, if you blame and defend, you kind of play ping pong between both of them, because you blame, then you defend, or the other one defends, which triggers another blaming, makes the other one to be the defender. And so you go back and forth between those 2 people, and you don't move forward. So there's no solution in this kind of conflict. It's kind of an escalation. So you only can dissolve that problem by addressing the elephant, by addressing the what is behind that that little game that we play here. So, and the third one is stonewalling. It is, you may have noticed that when people like crossing their arms, don't participating in the conversation, they kind of refrain, refuse to participate. They have always like opinions like, well, I don't care, I don't know, I don't want, So they don't constructively participate in progressing, in getting things moving or getting things forward. And the contempt is like actually the worst of all, because contempt means there's no positive emotion. It is like talking bad about others, having bad thoughts, having negative thoughts on everything. So there's so much that holds you back, that you actually are not able anymore to participate in a progressing way. So these 4 communication styles are those that Amy Edmondson addressed as most toxic in teams which bother and harm psychological safety. So whenever you have something like that in your teams, or if you see that in teams or with your coachees or wherever you come across people, then it's needed to address them and to solve this situation before you can expect that a team runs smoothly. Then I really often get asked, like, how do you do that? So one is to address the situation, to figure out what the problem is. And then the next is, how can you get started, right? So here are 3 little tips to get yourself or your clients started, to promote a more psychologically safe environment in their bubble, in their world. Hack 1 is the technique of active listening. And remember, this was also one of the coaching skills I've shown you earlier. Most of them don't stand alone. They are intertwined and impact each other. In this case, active listening contributes to a psychologically safe work environment. Active listening is not just listening. It is kind of a range of behavior. It's a specific behavior. For example, you can show active listening by being present, or by think about what you've heard, and like by closing ranks. You can do that, like let's take the example of being present. You can maintain eye contact if that's culturally appropriate, and I know there are cultures where it isn't. If you are in such a culture, or if you like are in touch with such a culture with your clients, then you figure out which behavior might be appropriate, equally appropriate, to like show somebody that you're really listening, that you are on there, that you are be active in this conversation. The second is take care of a safe environment. Figure out what kind of conversation are we leading? Like, is it something that is heard, but it's important to be safe, be close, so confidential. Then you need to take care of a closed door, of a safe room where nobody comes in and goes out. There's no disturbance. That is something that is equally important, because if you know something is going to distract me, then you need to make sure that it doesn't happen in that situation where you want to show active listening, right? So take care of the environment, take care of safe environments, quiet environments, whatever is needed for the conversation. That takes part, and that supports active listening. Also, you should respond to the expressions of your counterpart, like read the nonverbals and make them aware that you realize their expressions. Ask them if you see like, oh, you look tired. Should we make a break? That is showing active listening. It's this active reading, actually, goes along with active listening. Or if somebody looks astonished or sad, then you respond to that. Well, you look sad. Why is that? Why is that so? Or I saw you smiling. What makes you smile? What is funny about that? Right? So you can address that and let people know and feel that you are with them, that you're really present. The second is think about what you've heard. So you give feedback from your personal perspective, not by judging the other person's opinion. Like, you really take in what you've heard. You figure out, you feel, what does it trigger in me? How does it land on me, with me, right? So what are my emotions in this case? And then you share your emotions, but only from your perspective. That are your emotions. And by doing that, you can help the other person to take another perspective, because you don't blame, you don't argue, you don't counsel, you just describe what is like in your space. And then the other person could address that, or could take a look at that and either deal with it, take it, leave it, whatever the person wants, but they don't feel pressured to accept that, right? So this is the second part of active listening. And the third is kind of closing ranks. That is one that is not really immediate, but it's a kind of a longer term active listening part. Because first you make sure that you understand correctly. That is something that happens obviously immediately, because you ask, like, did I understand correctly? And you put it in your own words, and you reframe, and you repeat what you've heard, and then you agree upon, like, is it correct or is it not? In the longer run, you have regular check-ins, like, are we here on the same page? Are we still on the same page? Are we still in the same boat? That could be within the conversation, let's say after half an hour of talking, or in between sessions over a longer period of days or weeks even. So always go back and check in. That lets the other person feel that you are really on spot, that you really join this process, and not just, well, I'm listening and then I forget about it, but you are part of this process by constantly checking in. And last but not least, you need to be aware of your biases. You know, we all have them. So they're called unconscious biases, which makes it difficult to deal with them and to like realize that you have them, but we all have them. And you probably know the horns effect or the halo effect of the biases. Whatever it is, whatever triggers yourself, figure out what your preferred biases are, and then be aware that they don't get you in these conversations. So this is hack 1. Hack 2, feel free to be curious. So this is one I really like because it's so easy. Being curious is something that is, well, sometimes seen to be like nosy a little bit, but in this context of leadership and coaching, it really shows appreciation. It shows valuing the other person and valuing their perspectives by asking, by challenging, by reframing, by ask about experiences, whatever that is. It elicits a lot of commitment. By asking questions, you can gather more information, of course. Sometimes you don't know things altogether. Even if you think you know everything, then there might be a perspective that you haven't seen before, and you get more knowledge about that. You gain clarity. Goes along with what I said before. If you ask, did I understand correctly? You gain more clarity on that. Or you grow the clarity of the other person's perspective. Because sometimes by speaking out loud, it makes things easier to understand, or there comes more clarity by saying things out loud. Then challenge existing assumptions. Nothing has to be like it is. Sometimes things change because the environment changed, right? So from time to time, it is important to challenge the existing assumptions and the status quo to get forward. Reformulate problems. Sometimes problems seem to be very, very big and unsolvable. If you reframe them, they appear in a different light, and then you can maybe find a solution to move on. You make others curious too. And I don't know if you have experienced that before. So what I recently discovered is whenever I ask a question, I have people around me that say, well, oh, I have the same question. I would like to get the answer too. Or, wow, having asked that, another question comes to my mind, that is da 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 da. So it is a much more active discussion than if you start asking questions around topics. Or not or, but and you generate more participation. Because if you ask questions, people think about their answers. If they think about their answers, they come up with other ideas. So this is a much more active process. And this is why it is important to ask questions, which is a powerful coaching skill. Sometimes people ask me, like, what kind of questions do you ask? What are good questions? What are powerful questions? And those of you who ran through an education, a coaching education, might have been in a situation where they have asked themselves in the beginning, wow, how can I come up with a good question? What is my next question? So that kind of put stress on people to find really good questions. Actually, it comes with experience a lot. Like, I don't think about what the next question might be. It just comes out. But if you're not in that experienced situation, you might want to have some helpers here. So there are a lot of books about that. There are a lot of online tools on how to get powerful questions. And also, I've created a little list here for you. And I don't want to read it out loud because it's a long list, and I think you can read by yourself. But you may take a screenshot of that and keep it somewhere, save it in a spot where you find it again. And whenever you have the opportunity to practice, you might pull it up and then have some question at hand that might fit in this situation. So now it's time for taking a screenshot before we move on. And that brings me to the last hack. So that is one that I really, really like. Look for solutions, not for those responsible. That might be a more culturally coined hack as well. Here in Germany, we tend to complain about everything instead of looking forward and find a way to move on. It's common to find not only a responsible person for a specific issue, but also somebody to blame for if something didn't go well. In a psychological safe environment, it doesn't matter much as mistakes are mistakes and can happen. In an unsafe environment, people would refrain from taking over responsibility and processes get stuck. If you realize that people keep looking back instead of forward, go with what if, so what, to get the boat running again. So what means you describe what you see in front of you. Like, as I said before, you describe, you take a look at the situation that is laying in front of you. And you may go from different angles. You may take a look from this side and from that side, take over perspectives of different people participating in this situation and get the big picture, actually. Then the next question would be, what would be if this situation would not have been like it is, but in a different way? And then you describe the desired perspective. Another question that goes along with what if is what instead? If I don't want to have that one, what is it what I want to have? What is it what I desire? And if you describe that, you have your future situation where you want to go. Then the big question is how to get from A to B. So what? What does it mean? What can you do? What is your role in that game? Right? Very often people in Germany say, like, I don't know. I have no idea. It's not mine. It's my manager's task. Right? And then I would ask, like, it's your manager's task. So you are helpless? You can't go forward? Why is it? What holds you back? Right? And then people got triggered and they figure out, oh, there's something I could do as well. I have a part, I have a share in that. And then they move forward and they create little steps to move from A to B. You can also ask about, you can also move forward by using scales. Like if you ask if the undesired part is a 0 and the most desired part is a 10, what moves you from where you are, like let people choose, and they are maybe at 1 or 2 because they are close to what they see. Then you can ask, what will bring you to the next step? What will take you there? What holds you back from going there? To kind of explore the situation. So this is why I find these 3 little questions very, very helpful to get people going. So here we are. I've moved you through our brief agenda, and you hopefully gained some insights in the importance of coaching skills for managers and got some ideas how to easily use these skills for yourself or help clients to grow their coaching skill set. I'm looking forward to your questions and our discussion in the Q&A section right after this presentation. If you would like to learn more, please feel free to contact me through LinkedIn, or you may also take a look at my website. Or if that's not too ambitious from China, attend one of our coaching skills for managers classes in Mallorca, Spain next year. Thank you for participating and for listening to this webinar.
Thank you, Antje. Thank you for your wonderful sharing about the coaching skills for managers, especially about psychological safety. And we got a lot of questions and comments from the audience, and we selected some of them, and some they are mainly in Chinese, and we've translated into English, and I'll put them in the chat box. 那我们非常感谢今天的演讲嘉宾 Antje 女士，给我们精彩的分享，关于教练性管理者必备的技能。然后今天她着重分享了关于心理安全感这方面的话题。那接下来呢是问答环节，大家如果有任何的问题的话，可以在提问框里提出。那我们 Zoom 里面的朋友呢，也可以直接可以取消静音，可以直接提问。好，我们先来看第一个问题。
I need my glasses for that. Sorry.
Yes, the first question, I'll read it. The first question is, according to your experience, how to deal with the employees, coaches, or colleagues who show stonewalling in communication? 那今天的第一个问题呢，就是根据您的这个经历，就是我们如何面对那些就是在沟通当中，然后就是拒绝沟通的那些人，特别是我们在跟我们的员工或者是我们的客户、学员或者同事打交道的时候，应该如何应对这种沟通的情况？
So from my perspective, that's kind of a psychological task that you have here, because usually there's something behind the behavior. So as a manager or as somebody who experiences that in colleagues or other people, I would go through communication. I would ask, or could it be that there's something behind that? I would describe the behavior that I see. I can see you stonewalling. I can see that you're not like to participate in this situation. Would you like to share the reason behind that, or is there anything I can do to help you to participate in the conversation? Because usually those people know a lot, of course, like others, and if you don't elicit what they know, they can't participate. You can't make use of it from a company's perspective, right? And you want them to participate. So anything that comes to your mind that offers a step that they can do to participate in the progress of project or the teamwork is welcome here. Anything that helps them to leave their position and to open up is a good situation, good solution. What I would do is to do it one-on-one instead of in front of the group, because usually they are kind of stuck in their own behavior and it feels awkward if they got finger pointed. So always one-on-one as a starter, and offer help, offer a hand to help them going over the bridge.
Thank you. 那对于我们就是如果遇到就是我们身边的人跟他沟通的时候，然后对方就出现一种回避、拒绝沟通的现象的时候，其实我们 其实可以看到他这个行为本身背后的原因，其实是有一些心理因素在的。那我们可以比如说提问，向他问一些问题。首先，你可以跟对方描述这个行为，你说我注意到你可能刚刚可能就是出现什么情况，可能就是不太愿意可能表达之类的。那就是我注意到你可能不太愿意就是参与到我们的这个比如说对话这个活动当中。那你能跟我分享一下是为什么吗？这有什么原因导致？那我能做什么，然后能够帮助你的呢？因为其实对方他心里其实是肯定有很多想法的，这个就需要你能够去积极的聆听，然后就是给对方去营造一个空间、一个场域，让对方能够去慢慢的敞开自己，然后去跟你去分享，然后愿意参与到其中。是因为可能有时候我们是在比如说人多的地方，然后大家可能很多人一起交流，那这个时候你可以选择就先跟他，比如说一对一的单独的沟通，然后在这种一对一单独沟通，就是让对方感到心理上比较安全的这种环境里，然后我们就帮助对方去通过这种提问对话的方式，让对方去打开他的这个心，然后让他逐渐的愿意参与到我们的对话里来。Thank you for your answer. Yes, let's see the second question. Yes, the second question is what if the leader is a dominant leader? And how to let them be open, curious, and listen actively?
Mhm. Another great question. So that's kind of a bit more difficult, I would say, because then you have already a strong character who's not reflecting on their own behavior. So the key here will be to try to get them realize that there might be different perspectives or different leadership styles. That is something that is sometimes difficult in cultural settings. So there are cultures who have different preferred leadership styles because that's socially accepted. The question is if there's like really something you should do. Well, but from a coaching perspective, usually people come to us with their own intention to change something. They feel miserable in a specific situation that they bring to us as coaches and then reflect on this situation. So a dominant leader would maybe comes to us with kind of a feeling that teamwork doesn't work well, or people quit their jobs more than the average in the company, and then they are kind of already open. If they aren't, you probably would never go to a person and say like, oh, your leadership style is not working here, should we work on that? So you kind of need a specific openness of people to create change. Other than that, it's difficult. It's more like, I would say, from outside, if people don't have the own reflectiveness, the only option to change something is if the company strategy is being changed. So then it is more of a like that. It's an approach of a general program that is rolled out over all leaders in the company, and then they are kind of forced to reflect on themselves. But still, if they don't want, you probably will not change anything. So that is like anywhere in coaching. So if people don't want to change, they probably don't change.
So it mainly depends on their own intention to change.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you. 那第二个问题呢，就是我们前面提到，就是我们三个小技巧。那如果说这个管理者他本身是一个就是支配型的管理者，那这种情况下就如何说让他能够具备这样的技能呢？就是能够比较开放，能够比较拥有好奇心，能够积极的聆听。那其实遇到这种就是支配型的领导者、管理者的话，其实是很难的，因为他们本身的性格就是一个就比较强势的，就是比较定性的。然后这个可能也跟他所处的这个环境，就是不同的这个文化有关系，因为可能在不同的文化里，然后 这个相应的领导力风格也是不一样的，可能在他所处的这个环境里，就是支配型这种风格就是可能是比较适用的。然后这个呢，就是有一点，就是我们在做教练的时候，有时候我们的客户就是来找我们，那这样的客户他可能就是这样一位支配型的领导者，他可能想说希望改变，因为他的这个风格可能在组织里不适用了，因为他这个比如说强势的作风性格，然后导致我们团队整个运作不是很顺利，然后员工离职情况也比以前就是更糟糕。那就遇到这种情况呢，他可能有一个主动意愿上的一个反思，他觉得自己要改变，然后呢，在团队里要有一种比较开放的心态，比较开放的这种包容的领导力。那遇到这种情况呢，我们是有可能帮助这位领导者实现改变的，因为一定要是他自身愿意的。因为还有一种情况是他要改变，但是不是他自身主动愿意的。就比如说，因为公司战略的可能战略的改变，或者说公司可能就新的启用了什么项目，然后导致这个这个管理者他必须去改变他本身的作风。那这种情况，他其实就是不那么情愿，其实是被迫的要改变的，但其实他本身心理上，其实主观意愿上是不愿意的。那这种情况下，其实就如果他不愿意改变他的这个风格，就是自己没有这方面意图的话，其实是不管别人怎样逼迫他，其实都是没有用的。主要还是取决于这个管理者自身的这个改变的意愿。Thank you for answer, Antje, and let's see the third question. It's mainly about other coaching skills because there are 9 coaching skills and you mainly focus on the psychological safety. This is about growth mentality. Can you share something about growth mentality?
So what we've seen is that in the coaching process, people change their minds. They learn to see different perspectives. And in taking into account what other people's perspectives mean, or like which impact they have on our teamwork, our development of the companies, of the tasks, we've seen that people kind of grow because they automatically take other perspectives into account. And having seen that, it means that they don't fall into this pitfall of taking their ideas as granted. And remember I mentioned the unconscious biases. We all have unconscious biases and assumptions. So if I find something okay and I have people who behave similarly like I do, I automatically assume that they find the same things okay. But this is not the case. And people who run through coaching processes or who adapt coaching skills tend to be more open for other people's perspectives and are more flexible to adapt to the commonly agreed solution. So this is the part of growth mentality here.
关于这个成长性思维呢，它主要是，比如说在一个团队、一个组织里，大家可能有就是不同的见解、不同的就思维，看问题的角度不一样。那在这个团队合作里，成长性思维就表示你是愿意，比如说站在别人的角度去考虑的，你不会掉入一个陷阱，就是说觉得自己的想法是理所当然的，就好像别人的想法可能跟你是一样的。这就像我们前面提到的一个概念，叫做无意识的偏见，就是我们每个人都会有一种无意识的偏见，就我们自己可能在先入为主的有了一个观念，然后呢有了一个假设，同时也认为别人可能跟我们一样，也具备这样的观念假设，但很多时候情况并不是这样的。那成长性思维就是我们对其他人的这种看法观点也是一种开放包容的态度，然后我们愿意去跟对方去讨论去协商，找到一个大家都认为就是一致同意的这个观点，就大家都认可的解决方案。那这个呢就是关于成长性思维。
There's another thing that comes to my mind, if I may add on that. So I work with a lot of managers, teaching them coaching skills. And what I've figured out from my daily work is that managers discover that they themselves grow a lot with this mentality shift, and that the teams grow as well. So it is kind of a need that evolves, like to grow, to empower, to make that happen.
那补充一点，就是这个成长性思维，我也接触过很多的这个管理者，然后我呢就是向他们就培训，然后就传授就教导这个教练技能，然后呢他们就是这些管理者，他们自己也发现，就是当他们具备这个成长性思维的时候，他们自己也成长了很多，就不止他们的团队成员有很大的收获，那他自己也是一样的，就是一个相互的，大家一起成长的一个过程。那同时呢，也给予了就是的团队成员更多的这个权利，就是能够更多的投入参与到这个团队的这个工作当中。Thank you for the add-on. Is yeah, because the person asked this question, he's also curious about the growth mentality. In one aspect, it refers to the growth of the coaches, the employees, and in the other aspect, it may also refer to the growth of the managers and the coach. Yeah. Thank you. And I think we still have some time for the last question. It's also about another coaching skill, dealing with feedback.
Yeah. That's interesting as well. And I know, so that might be a cultural conflict as well, as I know there are cultures where feedback is not as appreciated as we kind of train our participants in coaching sessions. So at least here, we constantly ask for feedback, or let people get used to receiving feedback, and we always take a look at, like, it is not just giving feedback but receiving feedback, and the standards I try to convey are based on Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication. So whenever I describe something that is in front of me, I don't blame a person. I only describe what I can see, and then the other person could say, well, from my perspective it looks different, or from my perspective it looks the same. And then you look at something and not at the core of the person. If I say, you are the one who has to take responsibility, you did something wrong, then the person is like, oh, because nobody goes to work and wants to destroy something, but we all go to work and would like to give the best possible for that day in that situation. So, of course, we sometimes have bad days and things go less good as we expected, but still the intention behind that is to show the best of oneself, right? So, and this is why it is so painful if somebody says, oh, you did, like, what you did is not what I've expected. That is not okay. And I just, before this call, I had a client who said, I was exactly in that situation. I prepared a project, a presentation for a couple of weeks, and then the presentation was shown, and then another person said, oh, that's not what I've expected. And then he was like, oh, so I spent so much time on that, so much effort, and then the other person just says, oh, thumbs down. Doesn't feel good. So Marshall Rosenberg, with this nonviolent communication approach, he teaches, like, describe what you can see from the giraffe's perspective, and this long neck and like this overview. Describe what you can see, and then go with this. And there come these three questions: what if, and so what. Work together on where you want to go and how to get there. And the feedback receiver, try to see it as a present. Like, you can get a present and you may like it. You say, thank you for that. Thank you for the effort to give me a feedback, but you are not forced to take it in. You can decide yourself. Do I like the feedback? Is there something I can see as well? And if not, check in, reframe, ask. And then you decide, oh yeah, there's something that I can see, and I can see the benefit of it. And then you take it in and may change your behavior, or you say, oh no, that's not for me. I had different things in my mind to respond, to react in that situation. I don't take the present. I would like to give it back, or to change it, or to put it somewhere and don't use it. So this is your choice. And that is the way how we deal with feedback. And this is why it is so helpful to create, or to work with feedback situations, because you can learn from it. And that again goes into psychological safety. If you have a psychological safe environment, you can say something like that. I have a lot of clients who are not in a psychological safe environment, who usually say, oh, in my company, I would never say something like that, because they fear something. And if you have fear in the room, it is hard to like bring something forward, right? And this is why it is important to deal with feedback as a feedback giver and a feedback receiver, but also make sure that the feedback can land in a very safe environment. Then it is helpful.
Thank you。那第4个问题是关于就是那个教练他的9个那个技能里面，其中有一项是就是关于应对反馈的问题，因为在我们的演讲中没有具体展开讲，然后刚才 Antje 他给我们针对这个反馈这个话题呢，他做了一些介绍。那这个反馈首先它也涉及到一个文化冲突问题，因为在不同的文化里，大家对这个反馈它的反应是不一样的。可能在有的文化里，就是人们就比较的喜欢去比较认可去给予反馈并接受反馈，但有的文化里可能就不是很认同这个反馈，就可能有的人对反馈这个是比较抵触的。那比如说在德国的话，我们是经常的，比如说向别人就是要求你给予我反馈，然后呢，除了是给予反馈以外，还有一个是就是习惯去接受这个反馈。因为当我们就是应对反馈的时候呢，要给予对方反馈的时候呢，更好的比较就是适合的，就是恰当的一点是去尽量的去描述这个反馈，而不是要去就是谴责对方的行为。举个例子，比如说对方他准备一个这个项目，或者是准备这一次的演讲，他准备了好几周，但是结果不如预期，然后突然有一个人就基于反馈就给了负面的反馈啊，这什么样弄的？然后这样的这种有直白的话，这种反馈可能说就是带一种可能是一种批判，或者甚至是一种指责的态度，这种反馈呢是不利的，就是对我们接下来的工作呢，其实是没有什么好处的。因为这个给予这个演讲，就是给出这个演讲者他的初心，他肯定是希望他能够展现出最好的自己的，但可能是表现可能不如预期，就是不如预期那么好。那我们有一个在非暴力沟通里呢，也强调了，就我们在就是应对反馈的时候，比如说我们提问的时候，我们可以跟对方就在给予反馈的时候，可能通过刚才的提到的，就是什么，就是如果会发生什么会怎么样？那如果这样的话，事情又会怎样？这样的就问题机制，然后比如再问到对方，你想要达成什么样的效果？那我们又如何达成这样的效果？就是从这样比较建设性的反馈，让对方可能就是突然意识到，诶，这样的反馈对我来说其实是一种礼物，就是你让我可能就是转变了刚才可能那种消极的想法，让我觉得我其实原来可以这么做，就是我刚才虽然做的不那么好，但是呢，其实也可以换一种角度，可以从其他方面做得更好，就是让对方觉得你的反馈是一种礼物，我非常感谢你给予我这样的反馈。但是其实接不接受这样的反馈呢，我们也是取决于这个人自身的。因为如果你觉得这个反馈对你来说是有好处的，你很喜欢的，那你就可以接受。但是你自己也有这种情况，会觉得，哎呀，这个反馈，我觉得对我好像不是那么有效，然后呢，我可能不太愿意接受。那你自然也可以不接受，这个是由你自己选择去接不接受这样的反馈。那不管是给予反馈呢，还是接受反馈，我们都是更强调在一个比较 拥有心理安全感的环境下进行。因为像比如说在有的人，比如说心理安全感不那么强的地方，比如说有的人我遇到一些就是客户，他们就是比如说在公司里，他们就不太愿意去表达一些去给予反馈啊，或者是接受反馈，因为他这个会让他有就是一种恐惧退缩心理，这个也是跟这个环境有关的。所以我们尽量的是能够最好在一个具备心理安全感的这样环境里，然后才能更有益的去这样更好的去给予以及接受这个反馈。这个就是以上的就是关于这个反馈的这个观点。Hi Antje, thank you very much for your great answers. It's very inspiring and thought-provoking. Thank you very much. I think that's all for today's questions. And if we have more questions, I will also send you an email about those feedback, those comments.
Oh,
Yes, I will also send you an email about the appreciation, about our appreciation and how many people watched online today. I think you may be curious about that.
absolutely.
Actually,
Yeah.
the number is there are many people. I already know that there are more than 200 people watching online.
Oh,
200,000 people, sorry.
wow.
Yes, it's a big audience. Thank you very much again for your valuable contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to all the listeners out there. And if you have questions, you find me online, and you can reach out through ICI. So if there are questions in the aftermath of this presentation, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and have a great day. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you.
And thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
好，我们非常感谢安全女士今天精彩的分享。那我们今天她的分享呢，我们到时候也会在我们的平台上有回放，然后大家可以实时关注。在这里我也顺便做一下我们下期讲座的预告。下期讲座嘉宾是有来自美国的英格女士，她是 EMCC 认证的督导，也是 ICF 的大师级教练 MCC。她给我们带来的话题是有关于同情疲劳的，就是我们导师和教练如何去应对同情疲劳的问题。那这次讲座是在下周三6月21号的上午11点。那感兴趣的朋友可以扫左方的二维码，然后报名参加我们的这个活动。另外，我们也在这里预告一下，是在6月24号，就下周六，然后下午1点到6点，我们是即将举行我们的欧洲导师与教练协会 EMCC 中国的月度会员开放日。那我们这个会员开放日呢，也是为了帮助就是所有已经是或者是想要成为导师、教练或督导的朋友，提供一个交流分享的平台。然后在这里呢，你会了解到我们督导、导师、教练的一个最新前沿资讯，以及如何获得这个导师、督导、教练的一个国际资格认证。那关于这次活动的具体活动信息以及报名方式，大家可以扫右方的二维码了解。我们也非常欢迎大家加入我们这个导师、教练、督导的大家庭。那关于这个，我们提到这个国际导师的认证，我们也在这里就预告一下，我们即将在8月，然后开启我们新一期的国际导师认证课程。那现在因为正好618，我们也提供了限时优惠，那感兴趣的朋友可以就是及时的扫这个下方的二维码，然后跟我们尽快的报名。那我们这个国际 资格国际认证的导师 EMCC 国际认证的导师呢，这个是在140多个国家通用的。那这个导师，有的人可能会问，这个导师他有什么用？他具体在做什么？跟我们平时了解导师他有什么不一样的地方？那这个呢，跟我们就是传统大家了解的这个导师是不一样的。我们这里导师首先他强调一个帮学员做对方向，选对方向，然后做对事。只有在明确了这个发展方向以后，然后才能够帮助学员挖掘他的无限潜能，然后快速达成他的目标。第二个是我们在导师帮助学员完成目标的过程中，同时也能帮助学员实现一个能量状态的提升。那第三个是我们的导师能够帮助学员去发现并激活身边的这个资源。这资源呢，不仅包括外在的资源，也包括内在的资源。那第四个是我们这个导师辅导成果，它比如说 KPI、KBI 以及 ROI 都是可以被有效计量的。然后第五个呢是我们的这个组织隐性技能萃取技能。我们导师具备的这个技能呢也是我们就是提供的一个非常特色的技能，是指我们懂得这个隐性萃取的导师，他不仅能够传承自己的经验智慧，同时也能够去萃取他人的这个经验智慧，传承给我们的学员。最后呢，我们再重磅预告一下，我们今年的一个大型的一个论坛是第2届组织隐性知识管理论坛，我们是于今年的11月12日到14日在瑞士达沃斯举行。那关于这次论坛的详细信息以及门票信息，大家可以扫右方的二维码了解，也可以登录我们的官方网址 www.go-TKM.org， 然后具体了解。同时呢，在这个就是论坛的第1天，也就是11月12日，我们将同步举办全球绿色大奖 GLA 的颁奖典礼。那这次绿色学习大奖，我们主要是为了表彰在绿色学习领域取得重大杰出成就的组织和个人。然后此次颁奖典礼，我们设置了个人奖1个，以及3个组织奖。那我们欢迎任何就是在绿色学习领域取得过重大贡献的个人和组织报名参与本次奖项的评选。那本次奖项的评选报名截止日期是8月31号。那报名表填写的话，大家可以扫右方的二维码，截止日期是8月31号。我们也非常欢迎就是任何就有志于在绿色学习领域有突出贡献的个人和组织，然后加入我们。那获得我们绿色学习大奖就评选的，就是通过评选的个人和组织呢，就是有机会被邀请到我们的达沃斯现场，然后进行现场领奖，并且有机会在全球观众面前去分享自己在绿色学习领域的一个实践和经验。好，以上就是今天讲座的内容，然后我们下一期再见，感谢大家的参与。